I was listening to this experiment. It was brief, but I've heard this before from other doctors and on these subjects. It was an experiment made in this prison. They started, feeding prisoners a balanced diet, which changed their behavior. At the end of the experiment, there was like 80% less violence, and people was a lot more human. Yes, I have heard this before. Certain nutrients and minerals actually regulate our behavior, and often the ones who commit violent crimes are deficient, extremely deficient in these nutrients and minerals. Meaning, nutrients and minerals are behavior regulators. There was this other doctor was talking about women in certain Asian countries that don't suffer menopause. They don't suffer any single symptom, zero. And they started investigating why, and had to do, of course, with diet. Something about seafood that regulated their behavior, regulated their hormones. Another doctor said when she was in school, when she was in university, she had painful periods. And one year, as an exchange between students, she went to France. And this was like, 50, 60 years ago. And she had some, for the first time, some liver pate, because liver pate is on the menu like every day. So she never had it before, but because everybody was eating it, she got, what's the expression? Um, uh, you know, peer pressured. I think that's the expression. And she had it too. And after a couple of weeks, she said the pain was gone. Liver is one of the most nutritious food out there. Liver, kidney, brain. The moelle osseuse, or how's it called in English? Uh, the backbone, the insides of the backbone. Um, those are the most nutritious foods out there. And if our bodies is satiated, life becomes more bearable, a lot more bearable. I make an effort finding the best foods around here. It's getting harder and harder. Still, because we are a coastal country, we still have access to tons and tons of seafood. But for the rest, it's becoming impossible. The meat come from the industrial, stuff. Nothing is homegrown anymore, which is a tragedy. Why am I saying this? Because I grew up with the idea that we were the pinnacle of human society. This was it. This was it. Never in the history of mankind things were so advanced, and we have to be proud. And we have surgery. We have all this. But then when you start analyzing things, it doesn't seem like it, does it? You know, at the turn of the industrial age, the political powers they saw to destroy agriculture. Why? Because most people was working still in agriculture, and whenever they disagreed with something, they would go on strike, and there was no food. That was a huge problem. Farmers just had too much power. They just had too much power. So little by little, the establishment started replacing people with machines and industrializing and passing rules and more regulations until you have farmers nowadays that are strangled by the powers. Yeah. Farmers can go on strike that nobody cares anymore. They can import food from the outside, from some industrial, type of thing. But the thing that is the industry has no moral compass, no ethics. Industry is in the business, in the purpose of making profit. They couldn't care less if they are destroying the environment. If they are feeding you crap, they don't care. Their plans, it seems to me, is no longer than 5 years. If you eat this, will you still be okay in 5 years? After that, they just don't care. That's why they are not legally you know bound anymore. It's like the needlecraft scheme. It's like the needlecraft scheme. So there's a rise in chronic diseases. Of course, they don't care. It's been shown, proven ad nauseum that chemicals used in agriculture are the cause of mainstream diseases. It's been proven. Glyphosates, pesticides, herbicides not only kills all the animal life, it also kills the microorganisms of the soil. It's nuts. It's nuts, and it's not sustainable. How long this is going to last, I don't know. But when you look at the world and you have 99% of the population living in cities, there's a problem. There's a problem, the big problem there. 100% dependent on these industries. And when you are fed crap all your life, you're going to have your behavior altered. Your behavior is going to be modified 100%. Have you ever had this impression that everybody's going crazy around you? Yeah. And when everybody's going crazy, the elites they start passing more rules, more regulations to control the masses, to strangle the masses. They even use prison terms like lockdown and stuff like that. You're not allowed to get out of your cell without a permit, without a justification. Are you essential or not? Holy shit. Life no longer lives. In this model, life no longer lives. People have to make a conscious decision, become at least 50% independent, you know, from the system. You have to get away from cities, get some chickens, get some chickens going in a little garden, to have some greens, some fruit. You have to think about those things, store food, learn how to store food. It's very easy. I look at the world and I see everybody's starving, actually. You can see in their faces. They are starving. They are lacking the most basic nutrients and minerals. They are starving. You can see in their expressions the tiredness. No matter how hard they try to rest, they can't rest. But work, they have to work. It will it will arrive at the point people will start people's life expectancy will be dramatically reduced. You'll see people's expectancy reducing, and it's a fallacy when they say in the past, people didn't pass the age of 30. It's a fallacy. That only happened when the industrial revolution started. People got exposed to the chemicals in factories. There was no protections, there was no insurances. Yeah. But before that, while we were living in farms, etc., people lived long lives. It was only when the factory, disease started, when people to fuel the industry had to go, hours and hours inside, mines to extract the minerals. And that wasn't the only source of income, so they went until they collapsed. That was a sacrifice, man was willing to. People don't see it like that, especially the feminists. The sacrifice is the silence that men actually suffer. We suffer in silence. We don't complain. So those men, had a family, but since that was the only source of income in that area, they would go into the mines and work until they collapsed, with their lungs filled with chemicals. At the age of 30 plus 40. But before the Industrial Revolution, people lived long lives. Well, now the modern world, now with the modern world, I don't think life expectancy is getting any better at all. The chronic diseases have been skyrocketing, and also the neurological ones. More and more children are being born in the spectrum. There's a like a 90% probability after 35. If you have a child after 35, there's a 90% probability, or 60 or something like that. It's above 50%. I don't know exactly. It's above 50% chance that autism will be, because it's too late. It's just too late to have children at the age of. I just I just don't understand. There is this culture, Romania, I think, the gypsies. I was listening, to their lifestyle, and I find it, you know, amazing. Please take me in. I want to be. I'm kidding. They um they are very united as a people. They celebrate everything. Every occasion is good for celebration. They share their wealth with each other, and they fix marriages to avoid the consanguinity. And the moment children become sexually active, they immediately get married. They don't spend seconds. So sometimes there's couples that are born at the age of 13, 14, depends. They immediately get together and married, and so they end up having a child, normally a year after marriage. And what happens is that at the age of 30, you're already a grandmother, or a grandfather. At the age of 60, you'll be a great great grandma. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing because that's the period which your body is the most adapted to have children. It's around that time. After 30, it's a risk. It's a risk. Not for the parents, but the risk that the child might be born, in the spectrum. The point here, the purpose was always to have healthy children. That was the. And I saw some images. They looked so happy. Whenever someone died, they partied for a week, remembering. You know, this is this is tribalism. Yes, it is tribalism, and it's very pagan. It's very pagan. I mean, that's why I don't like these ceremonies in this part of the world, because everybody's sad and crying. To me, no, you should do the opposite actually. But they demonize it. They put it down. They punch down, and they also remove it from the children's attention. So people are not conscious of death until late in life. And when they are faced with that reality, they panic. Like during the COVID, um, panic that everybody went through. They suddenly remember, oh shit, we are mortal after all. Everybody started panicking. Of course, it was all bullshit, propaganda, but being conscious of the cycles and celebrating. Anyway, all right, I think I'm going to shut up now. I was going to talk a little bit more, but it's been 20 minutes already. Have a nice day.